We're under 100 days away from kickoff for Clemson football. Let's dive into our strengths and weaknesses as we rank our position groups for this year.
You are Locked On Clemson, your daily podcast on the Clemson Tigers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Locked On Clemson podcast. We are so grateful you're here. Thanks so much for joining us here on this episode. My name is John Bivens. I'm a credentialed media member for Clemson. Be able to go to some football, baseball, basketball games, sit in press row, hear the press conferences, get to have a little bit of conversation with the coaches and the players. You could follow me over on Twitter right here at I am John Bivens. Thanks so much for making Locked On Clemson your first listen every single day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcast at, and over on the over on YouTube. We are a part of the Locked On Network, where it is your team every day. Here on Locked On Clemson, we say this every time. You're getting three things: all sports, all passion, all of the time, where we're bringing you everything you need to know about Clemson athletics. Today is Friday, May 24th. We're going to keep our focus on Clemson football today as we break down our positional groups. Also, Clemson played their first ACC tournament game this year, or yesterday. Might as well have been our last game, but we'll dive into that and so much more. Today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app now, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE, LOCKEDONCOLLEGE, for your first $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. And so we're grateful that you're here. We're so grateful that you're here, a part of the show, a part of the family for Locked On Clemson. Hey, we are on our road to 1,000 subscribers, and we're growing every day. Please, if you don't mind, give us a subscribe. If you are not, head over to YouTube, hit that subscribe button. We'd be so grateful for that. But today, we are 99 days away from the kickoff of this season for Clemson football. We're excited for it. We're ready for it. It's going to be a great year. We are speaking some success over this team. I know there's a lot of controversy right now with Clemson football. A lot of people sleeping on us. A lot of people not really respecting what's going on. They're focusing more on kind of Dabo's hot take, the transfer portal, the lack of success last year. I'm seeing a lot of people who are sleeping on this team, saying that we're going to go under, saying that Dabo's going to be leaving, saying all this stuff. I don't believe it. I don't buy into that. I think this year Clemson has a chance to get back to who they were for those 6 consecutive years, prime time at Clemson. I think they've got a chance for that. I think there's really a possibility for success and a possibility for growth at Clemson. So I think this year's going to be great. So what we're going to do today is we want to dive in, and we're going to dive in and just rank our offensive groups. Some people break it up. Some people consider this differently. We view it 3 different group sides on offense, 3 different groups on defense. So we're just going to stick with those, kind of break those down a little bit. Again, some people disagree with us. Some people divide up every single position, but we're going to stick with the groups. So we're going to start off with offense. So on the offensive side, we have 3 different groups, positional groups: skill players, quarterback, and the line. And so those are the 3 we're going to go through. We're going to give we think our best is and where we think the most work needs to come. This year, for the first time in a while, I think Clemson is going to be led by our skill positions. I think our skill positions are really going to be the one that kind of comes through and shines for us. Last year, looking at the team, we had some holes here. We had 2 really good running backs, but for some reason they caught the fumble bug last year with Will Shipley, Phil Maffa. I think that hopefully those days are gone. But last year, those were hurting, those holes, those fumbles, those lack of consistency. Also, our wide receivers last year, we really didn't have a standout wide receiver. We really didn't have a wide receiver that was going to carry us, that was going to lead the way, that was going to be the one. There was a lot of drops, a lot of misread routes, a lot of not communicating between wide receivers and quarterbacks. So I think those days are done. This year, I feel so good about our positional or our skill positions. I feel so good about wide receivers, about running backs, even tight ends. I'm excited. I'm excited to see where that goes. Our wide receivers right now, our projected starting lineup is Troy Stellato, Antonio Williams, and Tyler Brown. I think that's going to change a little bit. I think you're going to see a lot of Bryant Wesco. I think you're going to see a lot of TJ Moore, 2 freshmen. I don't think they'll start right off the bat, but I could easily see them starting in, earning that spot mid to late season this year. But you also see some Adam Randall. There's going to be a lot of players. We've got really I mean, even Cole Turner's up there, right? I'd say we have 5 wide receivers that I'm comfortable with at any time, with Troy Stellato, Antonio Williams, Tyler Brown, TJ Moore, Bryant Wesco. I think those 5 are going to carry us. They're going to be great. I don't think we're going to see a lot of disappointing aspects of them. I don't see we're going to be let down a lot by them. I'm excited about them carrying the room. Running back, guys, I think we're going to see a year from our running back room that we haven't seen in a long time. Our last huge successful year at running back was Travis Etienne, right? Phil Maffa has the potential to have that kind of year this year. I'm not saying he's going to be as good as Travis Etienne. I do think he could have a very, very successful year this year. I think with the offensive line upgrade, which we'll talk about in just a second, Phil Maffa's taken over. He's no longer sharing reps with Will Shipley. Jay Haynes, freshman, is going to get some time. Keith Adams Jr. is going to get some time. I think they'll get some reps, but Phil Maffa is going to be the star of that running back room. He's going to get most playing time, so we're excited about that. So overall, our skill positions feel really good about. I think we should feel really great about. Second area, so skill position, our biggest strength. Second is I think I'm going to put our quarterback room there. I think Cade's going to have some turn. I think he's going to have a turnaround this year. I'm not saying he's going to come out and be Heisman worthy. I'm not even saying he's going to be the best quarterback in the ACC. I just think he's going to have a much better year than last year. He's going to come out. He's going to play well. I think the mistakes, the jitters, all that's gone. I think we're going to get Cade from the Kentucky game. That success, that consistency, a guy that knows what he's doing. A big aspect that I think not a lot of people are talking about, we're going to dive in later on, is I think having offensive coordinator, having Garrett Riley in Cade's ears in the helmets pre-snap is going to be huge. Being able to help him walk through the reads he needs to make, walk through what the defensive using, make him final calls. I think that's going to be great. One of the biggest things last year that hurt Cade is his impromptu plays. For some reason, if he's going with the flow on the line, that's when the bad reads come. He runs when he shouldn't. He runs a read option when he should hand it off. He should pass it when he shouldn't. Right, he made some easy mistakes last year that fans could notice and watch. So I think having Garrett Riley in his ears helping him go through that progression is going to help his progression a lot more. So excited about that. We also have good quarterbacks behind him. We have Christopher Vinzenia. We have Trip Pierman. Those two are both guys that if Cade goes down or gets pulled, those two I could see being successful with us too. So number 2 spot on this lineup is our quarterback room. And then lastly is our offensive line. I think our offensive line this year is going to make some growth. Last year, you could say part of the problem with our running game is our offensive line wasn't opening up how it should. Cade took more sacks last year than any quarterback has in recent years. Our offensive line was struggling last year, and I don't think it was our line's fault. I don't think it was because our offensive line was terrible. I think it was because of coaching. I think our coaching last year, offensive line coach, really had no experience, really had no time to bring forth a sense. He didn't bring a lot of progression, didn't grow the players. Bring in Matt Luke, Coach Matt, he's bringing a whole nother level of expertise, whole nother level of development and experience developing players. So I think bringing Matt Luke in to help this offensive line group is going to be huge. Our offensive line right now, it's got some experience on it. Right now, our projected depth chart, we only have one that is under a junior. We have a senior and a grad on there as well. So our center right now, taking up the spot, new center this year starting is Marcus Tate. Our guards are Walker Parks and Colin Sadler. Marcus Tate's a senior. Walker Parks and Colin Sadler is a junior and then a sophomore. And then our tackles are Blake Miller and Tristan Lee, who is both juniors. So I think that group's going to be solid. I think they're going to be great. We do know that Dabo likes to rotate in there, so we've got some backups that are going to come in. We've got a freshman with Elijah Thurman. I think he's going to be he's a backup right guard. I think we'll see him at multiple different spots this year. So we should feel good. Overall, I would put our offensive group, I'd rate it 8 out of 10 right now. Easy spots to jump higher if our running offensive line can create holes for our running back, and if Cade can make the jump. So maybe 7, 8 out of 10 right now, but easily could be a 9, 10 out of 10 later on this year if we see these progressions that need to happen. So that's where we rank our offensive group. That's where we have our offensive players right now. Now we're going to take a quick hear from our sponsors, and then after the break, we're going to come back and dive into defense. So we'll see you in just a moment.
Guess what, guys? It's winner take all time in the NBA and NHL, and FanDuel is giving you a shot to bring home a big win of your own. Guess what? The NBA playoffs are here. Anthony Edwards is absolutely killing it. And plus, if you're into the NHL, We got some slap shots you can bet on. The Carolina Hurricanes are in the second round right now, so I need you to go to that bad boy and check it out, because here's what new customers can get. $150. Yes, you heard that correctly. $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. Let me repeat that. $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. And I'm telling you, you can bet on anything from the spreads, the money lines, player props, and much, much more. I'm telling you, $150, oh my God, you can win some money. All you got to do is pay attention and go to FanDuel.com/locked-on. The website is FanDuel.com/locked-on, LOCKEDON, and make every playoff shot count. FanDuel is America's #1 sportsbook.
And here we are. We are back on the Locked On Clemson podcast. So that's where our offense is at. Now we move forward. We keep it going, and we switch to the other side of the group. We switch to our defensive side. This one, I feel much better about. I'm going to settle and land on offense 7 out of 10. Defense out of 10, you've got to feel great. Here's the thing, and I was listening to a podcast, a different episode, guy breaking down Clemson, and he made some great points. He talked about how coaching has been a problem with our offensive side, how most of our coaches on offensive side lack that expertise, lack that experience. They don't have a lot of college history. They don't have a lot of coaching history in there. They're more players and then transitioning straight into Clemson coaching. Defense is not that side. Defense, our coaching is electric. Our coaching on that side is great. And with that, I think it shows how every year defense isn't a huge problem. Yeah, we've had a couple spots where our defense is like, what's going on? But for the most part, our defense is one of the best in the nation, and it is consistently. And it's because of coaching. It's because of where they're at. It's because of coordinators. It's because that's happening. And so our defensive side, we feel great about. Overall, I feel 9.5 out of 10. Feel great about our defense. That 0.5 could be increased. We'll talk about that in a second. So, again, 3 groups on defensive side. You've got the secondary, you've got defensive line, and you've got linebackers. So how we would rank them is our number one spot for defense is we're going to say the number one group on defense has got to be our defensive line. There's something about Dabo and Clemson culture that knows how to produce some defensive line. Look at how many get drafted. Look how many are starting in the NFL. Look how many are on the rosters. They know how to produce defensive lines, and I think this year that's no different. We've got 2 young guys with sophomore starting, a junior and a senior starting on those defensive line. I think those parts, that's going to be our bread and butter this year. That's going to be the number one. That's when people talk about Clemson, they're going to be starting off with our defensive line. Who we got is our defensive ends. We've got Cade Denoff, who's a junior, and TJ Parker. TJ Parker is going to be electric. He's going to get drafted. He's going to be a first-round draft pick later on in his career. They're great players. And then on defensive tackles, we've got Peter Woods and DeMonte Capert. They're going to be great. Those two are both. Peter Woods is a sophomore. DeMonte's senior. I think they're going to be electric. Those 4 right there are going to really bring us some success. The problem is a lot of times when people have that and they don't allow that to keep growing, when they have only 4 good players and they don't give them a break. Our second string defensive line players are not just as good, but they're still good. You got AJ Hoffler, Trey Williams, Peyton Page, Jaheim Lawson, even Vic Burley, redshirt freshman. These guys they're going to get some time. They're going to play in time because, as we talked about, Dabo plays more players than anybody else. So I'm excited about that. I think our defensive line is really going to have some success. They're not going to allow a lot of running. They're going to get to the quarterback. They're going to cause some pressures. ACC, they've got decent. They're not known for their offensive line play. They've got all right. They've got some schools with good offensive line, but they've also got some with a lot of holes. So I think they're really going to take advantage of that. They're going to cause trouble. I think we could even see these defensive line group causing some trouble in that first game against Georgia. So we're excited about that. I can't wait to see that. Going to be great. Now moving on, our second group where we would rank them is we're going to rate our second best on defensive, our linebacker room. And this is one that I think it could be surprising how good our linebacker room is this year. We are loaded with talent. We've got our new captain of the team with Barrett Carter. We've got Kobe McLeod. We've got Wade Woodaz. We've got Avian Terrell. But we also have 2 freshmen coming out of secondary unit that one of them I think could be a starter with Sammy Brown and Corian Gibson. They're going to be good. I'm sorry, I'm talking about linebacker. I break in a little bit of cornerbackers, but Sammy Brown is going to be electric coming out of that linebacker room, coming out of that linebacker secondary unit. I could easily see him coming in, taking that starting spot, maybe away from Kobe McLeod. Wade Woodaz is great, but I could see Sammy coming in, replacing him a good bit. So I think our linebacker room is electric. It's going to be great. You should be excited about where that's at. It's heading towards a great, great, great area. I think they're going to be strong. What's good here is you have the versatility. You have specific players who are great at pressing. You have specific players who are really good at jumping in there and plugging in running holes. And you've got some that are great in coverage, and you've got others that are good at both. So we're covering the holes. We're covering all areas. I think our linebacker room is going to be really good this year. We'll see some success from then. And then our third ranked on defense, where we would put our third ranked group of defense, is going to be our secondary. And it's not necessarily that we're very concerned about where our secondary is. It's more we're missing some holes from last year. We're missing some players with one transfer, and then Nate Wiggins getting drafted in the first round this year. We're missing some holes that we don't know yet if there's going to be players to be able to fulfill them, players to be able to jump in and take what they need and survive that, be able to come in and fulfill that gap and not let it be a gap of play there. So our secondary, now we'll get to our cornerbacks. I kind of jumped ahead a little earlier, but our cornerback starters ones are Jaden Lucas and Avian Terrell. Avian Terrell, I'm not worried about. He's a sophomore. Last year we saw some freshman mistakes, but we also saw some sparks of greatness. I think he's going to come in and play great. Jaden Lucas, he's got to be the one that's going to step up and fill that hole for Nate Wiggins. Avian Terrell's going to be our number one, but Jaden Lucas has got to replace what Avian Terrell did last year. So that we've got to see some improvement there, got to see some growth there. And then our safeties and our nickelback, we've got good players there. We've got R.J. Mickens, we've got Kylan Griffin, and we've got Khalil Barnes. Khalil Barnes last year, he was the player that I was the most worried about in our secondary, but I think he was a freshman last year. He's now a sophomore. We'll be able to see him make that gap, make that leap from each year, see the growth going to happen. And then now we talk about that freshman we mentioned earlier. When we get to our cornerbacks, going back to them, Corian Gibson, who is a freshman cornerback, he's going to see, I think we're going to see some sparks. We're going to see some big energy. We're going to see some excitement coming from him this year. I'm really excited about that. That's going to be huge for us. That's going to be someone that comes in and plays absolutely great for us. I think we should be excited. We talked to earlier, Khalil Barnes made a quote that said that their secondary is going to be the best in the nation. They've got that potential, but they also have a potential to be worrisome. So that's why we have them last. We could see some improvement. We ranked the defense 9.5 out of 10. Khalil Barnes, that 0.5 that we need to see is if the secondary can truly be as elite as talked as the hype is around them. So that's where our defense is at. Offense 7 out of 10, defense 9.5 out of 10. Going to special teams really quickly. Kicking was hurting for us last year. We couldn't find a kicker. Luckily, we had a graduate student come back to Clemson and kick, and he was all right. He played well. We had a freshman last year with Robert Gunn III, who was supposed to be excellent, supposed to be really good, has a boot on him, just isn't really consistent. So we'll have to see how he does. He's coming in. He's our starter this year as a sophomore. But we have a freshman that's supposed to be really good. Nolan Hauser is supposed to be really, really good. So he might take that Robert Gunn spot if Robert starts letting us down again. But kicking right now, I'm going to put it a 5 out of 10 just because it hurt us last year and we didn't really prove that we're so much better. So 5 out of 10 on special teams. Hopefully that it jumps dramatically in the first couple of games this season. But that's where our position groups are. That's where we rank overall as a team. Overall, you can tell we got talent. We've got playmakers. We've got players that can be special. We've got future first-round draft picks. If we can lump it all together, if we can play consistency, if players can work out their kinks, they can truly play at the potential they're at, Clemson's in for a really special year. We're in for a really, really good year. But if they allow themselves to be mediocre, especially on the offensive side of the ball like the past couple years, we're going to have another upsetting season. So excited to see what happens. We'll break down each of these players more in the upcoming months. 99 days left till kickoff. So we're going to talk about all these players much more as we get into kickoff. But we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll switch up the areas we're talking about just a little bit. So we'll see you in just a minute. We got to say thanks to one of our sponsors, which is Gametime. MLB is in full swing, and very little is better than a game day at Clemson University. But MLB games are a close second. I love going to different ballparks and feeling the vibe, feeling the energy of the stadium and the fans. My go-to place for tickets is the Gametime app. Gametime is an authorized ticket seller for MLB games, and they're the easiest place to go to for all your needs, whether it's advance or if you're planning in advance or if it's day of and last-minute tickets. Do you know prices on the Gametime app actually go down the closer it gets to tip-off? With killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seat, and the lowest price guarantee, Gametime takes the guesswork out of buying MLB tickets. Braves, I know a lot of Clemson fans are Braves. They're in a little slump, but you can never count out the Braves, especially after 2018. I'm a huge Padres fan too. They're making a push now. No matter who your team is, Gametime is the best place for tickets for all MLB teams. Some of my favorite things about Gametime is 60% off when you're buying last-minute tickets. I also love the fact that every single seat, you get to sit in your seat or you get to look at the seat and see a panoramic view of everywhere you'd be able to see as you're in your seat before you even buy the ticket. I love that. I love the convenience that they provide the buyer. Overall, Gametime is the best place to buy your tickets. Take the guesswork out of MLB, buying MLB tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app now on Google Play or the App Store. Use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Game or terms apply. Download the Gametime app now. And here we are. Welcome to the Locked on Clemson podcast. If you're just joining us, we dive into our positional groups of Clemson football. Now we're going to switch gears. Yesterday, Clemson played their first round of the ACC baseball tournament, and it might as well have been their last one because we were eliminated after one game. Man, what a disappointing performance. We played Miami. We overall lost 8-7. It turned into a really good game those last couple innings, but overall it was disappointing. What happened is exactly what we talked about. Our pitching really let us down. Our starter pitcher for the game was Darden. It was Ethan Darden, and he lasted 1.1 innings, gave up 5 hits, 6 runs, 1 walk, and only had 1 strikeout. He faced 11 batters. One of those there was an error that led on, so that one doesn't count. But disappointing performance. 5 runs. Miami put up 5 runs in the first 4 outs. Pitiful. Later on, so those was 5 runs. Clemson started making a comeback, and then we allowed more runs, and we gave up a run. Later on, Lucas Malstead pitched a great game. He pitched 4 innings. He came in on relief, pitched 4 innings, only allowed 4 hits, 1 run, had 3 strikeouts, was really happy with his performance. Reed Garris came in, pitched 1.2 innings, only allowed 1 hit, did his job, and then Matthew Marshall came in, pitched 1 inning, allowed 2 hits, gave up a home run. That home run was killer. So how it happened was goes on later in the game. Clemson got it back to a one-run game. And then bottom of the 8th, Matthew Marshall comes in. First plate appearance, he's facing a freshman who's pinch hitting, one of the hardest things to do in baseball. Pinch hitter puts one way over right field. Alden Mathis didn't even turn around and watch. He knew it was gone. Ball was smashed. Because of that, Miami took a 2-run lead going into the 9th inning. And then on the offensive side, we had some disappointing. Like, some players played well. Overall, we had 11 hits, which is all right. Alden Mathis really let me down here. I was really disappointed by his performance. He came in, went 1 for 5 with 3 strikeouts, and he left 4 people on base. Overall, Clemson could not hit with people in scoring position. I think we had 2 or 3 hits with people in scoring position the entire team out of 12 different opportunities. Really let us down there. Alden Matthews was a big one of that. Left 4 people on base, struck out 3 times, had 1 RBI, but other than that, didn't do too hot. Our stars of the game, Jacob Hinderleiter played well, had 2 hits, 2 runs, also had a walk. Cam Canarella played well, 2 hits and 5 at-bats, 1 run. Jimmy Obertop played well, 2 hits and 4 at-bats with 2 runs. And then Jaron Purify, 2 hits of the double, 2 RBIs, had a run as well. He played really well, didn't leave anybody on base. Excited about them. Jaron Purify's a freshman, so excited to see him as he continues to grow. Overall, if you didn't watch the game, the biggest thing to talk about is 9th inning. We get it back to a 1-run game. There's a runner on first. Last guy's up to bat, and Tristan Bissetta gets up to hit. There's 2 outs, runner on first. What's going to happen? Getting down to it, they have a pitcher comes in. Miami has a pitcher, Miles Caba, who's a great player. He pitched 2 innings, got the save. But Bissetta gets up. He hits a ball that it is hit hard. Going to left center, one of the deepest parts of the field, left center at Truist Park, gets to the wall, and their left fielder makes an amazing play. Edgardo Villag, I don't know how to pronounce his name, but their left fielder for Miami went up, and the ball was a home run, but he robbed it. Caught it at the top of the wall. If it would have hit the wall, it would have bounced over, been a home run, but it didn't. He caught it, robbed a home run for the third out, and we lost the game by 1 run. Because of that, Miami beat Louisville, so now our game today at 3 p.m. doesn't even matter against Louisville. We are eliminated, so we went from champions. Last year, we won the ACC Baseball Championship, to now this year, we are a one-game elimination, so heartbreaking, disappointing. We're going to dive into more about Clemson baseball later on as they get into the College World Series. We should still host a regional, but overall, that game yesterday was disappointing. The concerns are still there. We're still upset. We're still worried about what's going to happen. We're still worried about what's going to happen with our bullpen. Can we pitch? Can our starters put together performances? Can we limit runs? We put 7 runs on the board yesterday, and it wasn't enough. So, again, baseball, if we want to be consistent, if we want to make it to the Super Regionals, if we want to make it farther into the College World Series, we've got to limit runs, got to have our bullpen be better. But with all that being said, that's going to do it for our episode here on this episode for Locked On Clemson podcast. Every Friday we do a Flashback Friday. Our Flashback Friday is last year ACC champs. We just got to hold true to that so we prevent being disappointed. But, hey, that's going to do it. Thanks so much for joining us today on this episode. Next week we're going to dive into specific prospects and players for Clemson football, give a breakdown scouting report for some of them. Hey, we'd like to know your thoughts on today. Do you agree with our ranking for our position groups? Would you change it up a little bit? What's your biggest concerns for our football team? All that. Let us know. Hit us up on YouTube. Drop a comment on the video. Hit us up on Twitter at I am John Bivens. Send us all this stuff. We'd love to have a conversation with you over there. But if you haven't, make sure you subscribe to this podcast. If you're audio format, hit that follow button. Rate us 5 stars. That'd be a huge help. If you're on YouTube and you like video content, hit that subscribe button for us. That would do us so much help growing that as our road to 1,000. That way, every day when you subscribe or follow, you can get your first listen here every single day on Locked On Clemson podcast. We can't wait to see you all on the next week's episodes as we break into more of Clemson sports. Until then, keep that Tiger pride alive and roaring. And as always, don't forget, go Tigers.